time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
I think we got it, Mark.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen of the chat, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Give the video a thumbs up if you hear us, if you hear myself, and Mark is here, I think.
Yeah, I am. I was just trying to be quiet to scare you.
So if you hear us both, thumbs us up. That way we know we have it. And it was a simple fix of unplug the microphone and plug it back in. So I have a microphone that actually my headphones actually plug into. You know. So I think it just needed a rest because it's been sitting on with its little blue light for the last month. So I think it might have just needed the old unplug and plug back in again. But what a beautiful night. I'm pretty sure you've been looking at questions, Mark. If you wanted to finish answering Earth's question, feel free. After all that, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I'm pretty sure you remember because I don't think you forget anything. So.
He was asking about the umbra and the penumbra. Well, the umbra mostly. He didn't mention the penumbra of the lunar eclipse when the moon goes behind the Earth. So, I mean, when the moon is in front of the Earth and we get the solar eclipse, then it's the sun that's shadowing, that's casting light on the moon, which causes it to cast a shadow on the Earth, on the daylight side of the Earth. In the night side, when it's the lunar eclipse, the moon is passing into the shadow of the Earth itself. And so the dynamics are different. Okay, the Earth is 8,000 miles across, but it's also smaller, of course, than the sun. But the sun has a discrete size in space. It actually isn't a point light like other stars. It's a disk, as seen from the moon as well. So that kind of distended light source, that's what's called a distended light source like that. That's why we see umbra, the dark part of a shadow, and penumbra, the lighter part of a shadow. So when we start to go in to like a lunar eclipse, then where some of the moon is in the shadow of the Earth's shadow, the sunlight coming over the edge of the Earth is partly being blocked by the Earth, but some of it's getting through. And because the sun is not a point light, and it has a diameter, a significant diameter, we actually see light getting through, and that's why we'll see that red moon even when it's behind the Earth, because we're getting some of that light at some part of the Earth. Parts of the Earth are actually brightly illuminated, as seen from the moon, with this edge of red, and that's the sunset, basically, as seen. It's actually Earth's sunset being projected onto the moon. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, and I thought I saw somewhere today that those colors shouldn't be reds and yellows and purples in the sky.
Oh, I know what we're talking about. We're talking about that physicist woman Claudia Albers, she says she's a Nibiru physicist. I mean, those two words are oxymorons. They don't go together. And you know what? And I'm not stealing that from someone who already said that, which maybe it was you or somebody else in the chat. Was that you?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe.
How much is it worth to you?
Well, it's not worth anything to me. I mean, but neither is anything she does on video, unfortunately, because the fact that we see reds and blues and stuff in the sky and during a sunset, well, there's a reason for that, and the reason has to do with physics, and it has to do with something called scattering. Now, we have two types of scattering that's happening with our sunlight, and I'll be happy to tell you all about it.
Don't. The only reason I'm asking you not to is because in the next couple days we're actually going to be on, myself and Mark are actually going to be on another channel, and we're going to be actually taking apart the Nibiru physicist arguments and telling them
this
why.
Isn't going to hurt that.
Okay. If you want to do it, I just don't want to I don't want to put too much out there. Actually come and listen to that.
No, that's fine, because you know what? They don't understand science anyway, so it's okay. They're science free, as I call them. They walk around wide-eyed, making up the rules of the universe and the laws of the universe as they see fit.
I would love to go through that video with you and just point by point and stop the video at certain points and explain it, from a scientific perspective. And I'm pretty sure, but we'll be on with Daz sometime in the coming days on Daz's channel and just chit chat with him about it. And yeah, I haven't gotten a time from him yet. I literally just talked to him before we came on air, and I was kind of like, he texted me about coming on like right when I was starting to stream. I was like, yeah, I'll talk to Mark and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So I'm gonna message him back tomorrow and let them know. And then we will let you guys know. Obviously, I'll let you know through the Facebook page and the Twitter page when it's actually going to be. And I'm pretty sure Daz will have something up on his channel.
That sounds wonderful.
He usually does a little promo like a couple hours before or half a day before or something before he actually does a live stream. So
yeah. Anyway,
continue what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was saying we have two types of things that happen when for all intents and purposes the light from the sun is white. Okay, and when it comes into our atmosphere, okay, people say, well, we get the clouds reflect white light. Why are the clouds white? Why is the sky blue? I mean, all this, that's not just a simple answer, because the molecules in the atmosphere are very small, okay, but the wavelengths of the light coming in are also small, all right, and these molecules very effectively scatter the light that's coming in. That is, they absorb it and they kind of emit it in different directions. Now, the shorter wavelengths, which are the blue light, get scattered the most, and in other words, by far the most. And so the full spectrum of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet light that's coming into our atmosphere from the sun is scattered, but the blue is scattered the most. And that means that it's no longer an orderly train of spectrum coming to our eyes. It's actually coming to our eyes, but it's missing a lot of the blue because the blue's been scattered. Where does it go? Everywhere. It goes in all directions. This is why wherever we go, the sky looks blue when it's clear out. Okay? We're seeing the blue light from the sun being scattered by the atmosphere, and that's what that's called. And that's called Rayleigh scattering. Now, the water droplets that make up clouds are different because they are they're almost the size of the wavelengths of the light coming in from the sun. So they don't do selective scattering like Rayleigh scattering does through the molecules into nitrogen and oxygen in the atmosphere. And that's called Mie, M-I-E scattering. That's a different animal. That kind of scattering is a scattering where all the light coming in is just picked up and scattered in all directions, and the entire spectrum is scattered, not just a selective scattering like with the molecules. So the water droplets, the water vapor droplets, scatter differently, and so that's why clouds look white, because they're actually reflecting the sun's light to us. And that's a physicist way of saying, reflection. Okay, it's in a way. Okay, so when I hear people say, like this Claudia woman said, that there is no green light from the sun, and that we see magenta in these images that she's looking at, and she's got these selected images. And don't forget, how are these images taken? With a camera, and I'll get into that in a second. Now, she looks at them and says, see, there's magenta. And she's saying the only way you get magenta is with blue light and with red light. And she actually said the blue light comes all the way down and penetrates through the atmosphere, whereas the red light does not. She said that, and I actually went back and listened to it again. And she said that. And she was saying, but the atmosphere is already blue, she said, so you don't see it. Well, wait a minute. I was like, what? Like, what? Okay. Yeah. I listened to that, and it was like, she's not even accounting for why the atmosphere is blue. She's saying, well, it's blue already. No, it's not. Gases aren't intrinsically any color. That she's trying to imply that the atmosphere is blue. No.
Well, just for argument's sake, we do have to say that, I mean, we don't have any proof, yay or nay if she's an actual physicist or not. Just the way that she's presenting her argument, it doesn't seem in line with 99.9% of physicists out there, which is maybe why she calls herself the rogue physicist. But I don't know.
You're absolutely right.
It struck me as weird, but that's a topic for another day anyway.
No, but you're right. You're absolutely right, and that's something that's it really, as Peter would say, it really grinds my gears. It's like, it's one of these things that I can't listen to this bad science and just ignore it. It's like
it's hard sometimes, isn't it?
I'm compelled to respond.
And but I mean, I'm not a physicist. I'm not an astronomer. I'm not, anything when it comes to good old schooling. But even me listening to that is going, something's not right here.
Well, she said that the magenta colors in the sky, and this leads to my other comment I was about to get to with the cameras. The magenta color in the sky can only be brought about by this blue and red. And then she went through that ridiculous thing saying that blue light makes it to the ground like nothing, and that red light is what's getting scattered. Right. It's like, she's a particle physicist, and maybe she is.
Yeah.
But she's not an atmospheric scientist. She's not an astronomer. She doesn't have that basic scientific background to make these discussions and to make these points. And I was actually stunned that she was saying them with such authority, like she actually knew what she was talking about. Mm. And guess what? She does not know what she's talking about. and I hate to say it, I'm sorry. She'd be a colleague in any other forum, but I can't support that kind of nonsense.
I wonder if it's possible maybe to get her on and just
Oh, they've tried, believe me.
They have.
Oh yeah, she actually lost her job at the university over a whole bunch of this.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been researching her. Oh yeah, oh no, she's lost her job, man. They've it's like, I don't care who you blame, you can only blame her for what she's been saying, right. And that's all.
And once again, I don't know the whole situation with it.
Good.
But it just seems like something was a little off there. With the explanation. Now, once again, I'm in no authority to say otherwise. But from what I've learned in my life, once again, something just was not making sense with the way this was being presented. So, give or take. Yeah. But so thanks for clarifying that. Anyway, we'll get more in depth on Daz the Cameraman's channel in the coming days. We'll find out when we can jump over there with him and chit chat about it, where we might actually go through it and actually hear your answers to it from the astronomy side.
Yeah, and you know what? I know that I don't have all the answers. I mean, I know my science, but I don't know everything, and I won't sit here and try and say I do. But I can tell you this: what I do know is based not on just reading books. It's based on empirical science. It's based on experiment. It's based on experimental results. Mm-hmm. And she said there's no green light coming from the sun. And I was like, and I wrote this in the response which you saw. Has she ever held a simple diffraction grating up to the sun? And you see every single color. You see green very prominently. Mm. It's contained in there. So I don't understand what she's saying. And our eyes actually see green best. It doesn't see red. Okay, right. Which is why red lights don't ruin our night vision. Okay, because we're not as sensitive to red. You don't see blue best. Blue is actually annoying if you look at blue light all by itself.
And
that's
what?
Color
I just
read CICs and a destroyer.
Yeah, that's weird because I just read something today that was they said if you have any kind of blue lights in your room at nighttime, even with you closing your eyes and going to sleep, turn them off. And if it's possible, that's why they recommend you not try to go to sleep with a TV on and stuff, because for some reason those waves of light can still affect you and affect your sleep, the blue wavelength. So it's really interesting.
And blue is kind of troublesome for the human eye. Okay, however, interestingly enough, when you're looking at blue light that's bathing your whole room, for instance, like here in my office, my lights are all Wi-Fi connected, and I can yell for Siri to change all the lights to blue or change them to conditioned red, where they all go to red. Right. Okay, so I can do that, and I can set the lights any color I want. I set them to blue, and guess what? My computer screens are actually easier to look at. Now, that I believe is the reason why on destroyers and so forth they actually have in their command and control center, they actually have blue lighting. Mm-hmm. And because the screens don't fatigue the eyes like they do with ordinary lighting. And so and the Navy's commissioned studies on this and to figure out the best colors and all that. So I mean, it's interesting, but I it's all physics, and if people astronomy is all physics. I had to take almost every physics class in the university to get my astronomy degree. Almost every one of them.
But you don't. Do you have any physics degrees?
I don't have a physics degree, but
Okay.
I mean, I had to take every single physics class. I only didn't. The only one I didn't take was one of the advanced relativity classes. I believe, and I think one of the quantum mechanics.
Is that one of the ones you were talking about going back for, or were you going more down the path of astronomy, more in depth with that?
Well, I'm actually going to go down more on the path of planetary science.
Okay.
I actually want to, get further degrees into planetary science, and that's something that the University of Arizona offers. It's something I want to talk to them about. And it's the kind of thing that you can't really do a planetary science degree online. And if they talk about doing research and having to do research, it's like, great, okay, I'll just use my research observatory itself. I'll use my own instrumentation to do my research as needed. Right. Or I'll go wherever I have to. I can use some of the instrumentation at different observatories that are in Arizona, professional observatories. Trouble is that they're usually near cities. It's crazy. Cities encroach on these once pristine, sky observatories. But, God, this is beautiful. Holy cow! And
I do want to remind everybody, if you guys have any questions for Mark in the chat, feel free to ask him. It's kind of a free for all tonight. It was an unplanned, like most of the time it is anymore. We hardly plan these things anymore, so we do have to get a planned one in sometime so people can prepare. But yeah, if you guys have any questions for Mark or astronomy. Physics the best he can, feel free. I mean, usually Amanda's around. I don't think she's around. I haven't seen her anyway, but we'll be paying attention to the chat. I'm kind of like keeping most of my attention towards the imaging because we are so awesome tonight. But
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's looking at the chat and whatnot, right? You're looking at the stream, and you'll be able to see any questions anybody has for you. So, but man, Clavius, whoa.
Yeah.
Freaking gorgeous. That rim, that I'm just from our perspective, that I'm gonna say southwestern rim, but it's actually down into the left rim of Clayton's crater. It's just amazing with that shadowing and what's peeking out, and that's so still. I mean, this is Miami, Florida. You know what I mean? I mean, we maybe get throughout the year 5-6 nights a year like this, with it being this still. It's just it's amazing. And when I was initially talking to Paul tonight before we went on, he was telling me it was really clear, and I told him we had some rain showers passing up here, and he was like, yeah, it looks pretty good down here. And I was like, is it good enough for the 11? And he was like, hell yeah. I was like, nice. And don't forget, this weekend we're probably going to put that 8 HD Edge to the test too, so that we just got. So yeah, he's building a small arsenal of telescopes down there. I think he just with that one that he just bought, I think is number 12 that he has down there. Yeah, he's only one guy. He can't operate them all by himself. This is crazy, But I mean, he does such a good job. Like, I mean, this imaging tonight is just, I'm telling you, maybe 5 times a year if we're lucky. Yeah, we get it this still. I mean, once again, you're talking about Miami, Florida. The humidity capital of the United States. Exact opposite of Arizona. So, and I think what's helping it, believe it or not, and I hate to say this thing is helping anything, but Harvey being out there spinning, down across Alabama, I think it's pulling all the moisture out to the west side of Florida and keeping it off the east coast of Florida where Paul is. So it's definitely there's got to be something to it, no doubt. There's got to be something to it. Yeah. You see any questions popping up on there? I do not. Yeah, Heidi's talking about the craters. Them things are awesome, man. I'm sitting. Yeah, I got the 2 of mine sitting right here. I did tell you I took 2, right? Oh, I know you got. Okay. I know you got craters. That's right. Yeah. And you got them just in time because now we're actually selling them. So. Yeah, and they're awesome. And actually, I should make a video of them, so people know what they look like. And maybe you might have some people that are watching that might want some. I mean, are you going for just kind of like retail? If somebody wants one. Well, the thing is, we're gonna make like
4x4, 5x5, and 6x6 craters. Any place on the moon below 60 north and above 60 south. So, because that's what the USGS data has for LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And I have the same data for Pluto. And I've got some really nice Pluto slabs here that I've printed out. And
is that the 60 degrees also for Pluto?
No, actually, Pluto is Pluto's actually got more data to it, but it's just the past that the New Horizons could see. So it's a swath of Pluto, but it's a huge swath.
Oh, I tell you what, you know what? Heidi just mentioned it in there too. Yeah, she got what she get? 2 Mars ones? Oh no, she got 1 Mars and 1 Moon. Yeah, that Mars one was awesome too. Now, what are you able to access on Mars? Parameter-wise?
Yeah, Mars parameter-wise, I can do the whole thing. Mars, they've got data. It's the MOLA data, the Mars Orbiting Laser Altimetry project. They actually did that. Malin Space Science System was fronting that a long time ago, and they actually uploaded the data. It's now under USGS control. And of course, I'm a member of the USGS sites, and I've been talking to those folks and helping them on occasion, working out the bugs in the system and going back and forth with them.
Right.
So it's nice. So it's really a cool system with which you can start to build up all your craters. I got a whole box of them sitting here. I've been printing more. I've actually run out of a whole roll of ABS.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Maybe in the next couple days I'll make a video of the craters that we got. You can somewhat see them. I think it's on Bill's channel, Bill New York Skywatcher. When we were actually up at Mark's shop, it actually shows the 3D printer printing one of them, and then it actually shows the layout and all the ones that we got. But I'll do an up close look for you guys so you can actually see them, and if anybody wants one, then you can just get in contact with Mark and set it up that way.
Why is Dazza saying they found bones on the moon?
I have no
What kind
idea.
of joke is that? What you doing, Dazza? Who are you trying to fool with that?
It must be on lunch break.
Yeah, right.
Oh my!
It's funny.
Well, but man, what a gorgeous night!
It's beautiful. I'm seeing a tremendous amount of detail. Tremendous amount of detail. It's very, very nice, and it's very little atmospheric turbulence.
Yeah, and when you think of 9 1/4 inches, and then going up to 11, in perspective, it's not that big. But when it comes to telescopes, it is a monstrous difference. With just the amount of light, those reflectors can catch, and it's, you can definitely tell the difference. If you go back to last night and look at kind of like the same areas that we're looking at now, it's not as crisp. Now, once again, we did have some atmospherics last night, but even when it calmed down, it wasn't this, it wasn't this sharp.
No.
You can actually see terrain on the moon. Like it's weird. Like the moon surface looks so not really in Amari, but when he's around craters and you see like the area between craters, it almost has like a puffy look to it. You can actually see that texture tonight. And once again, we rarely ever get that, and it's amazing to look at. Yeah.
By the way, I got one question back in chat. Someone wants to ask me to explain the UV influence in our spectrum. I don't know what the UV influence in our color spectrum is, other than to say that on photographs that you take, if you don't have UV protection in your camera, UV light tends to bloat pinpoint images like stars, and you add a UV filter and you get very, very sharp pinpoint, beautifully focused imagery. Now again, your eye of course doesn't like UV light either, obviously. Those of you that had a black light, if you remember looking at it, it's disturbing to look at. It's hurting your eyes a little bit. That's because it's hurting your eyes. Okay, UV light is not something that our eyes and our retinas are used to being impacted by, so it can hurt us. But so as far as the influence, I don't know what short to ground, that's what the name means by that, but I guess that's kind of sort of roughly what I think he's talking about, or she's talking about, he, she, I don't know. But close enough, I don't know. But if he chooses to explain, let me know. I'll try to tackle it again. It's just that UV light is a higher energy light.
Craig asked, "Why are aliens here already? Looks like the moon to me." No, we're asking you, Craig. It's just a question for you. Are aliens here already? What do you think?
This is just Keith's way of sparking conversation in the chats. You
You want to know what it really is? It's my second attempt at a clickbait title.
Oh, I was gonna say that actually, believe it or not, because I thought maybe you were trying to pull a secure team kind of.
Well, no.
approach.
When we first started to stream, I was like, because I figured, and we did have a couple people to come in and saying, "Oh, I'm here to look for UFOs." I mean, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that attracted them, and they found the channel. Now they can, even if they're just here to look for UFOs. Once again, the more eyes, the better. I don't care if you're here to look at craters. I don't care if you're here to look at the moon. I don't care if you're here to, look at a piece of dirt.
Yep.
As long as your eyes are on the screen and, you have a chance of seeing something that nobody else does, the more eyes, the better. So it worked in that.
Yep. Yeah. Look at this. I mean, you can see the terrain around this crater so beautifully. You can see the terracing inside the crater, even with the atmospheric turbulence. Amanda's here, by the way.
Did she finally come around?
Yeah, she's here.
But this once again, when it goes out, I get so confused when I say you'll see it on YouTube because you're watching the feed. But this area just right around here, this whole texturing of the land, it's amazing. It has a puffy look to it, especially when it gets into an area that has a lot of impacts, and you get those like little stretches of land in between crater impact, and it looks like it could be really, really fine. Like that moon dust you had up at your shop?
Yeah.
It looks like it could be like, 5 feet of that, sitting there on the moon. Like you would almost sink into it because it looks that texture and that like kind of puffy look to it.
Yeah, no, I get you. It looks like something that was deposited from above and laid down and not compressed and not compacted. Mm-hmm. And that's probably somewhat true, except when you get down there, you'd probably find that you don't even recognize that puffiness because the puffy objects that you're standing on would actually probably be thousands of feet across, and you just wouldn't see it,
Mm-hmm. And Max was asking about the hexagon on Saturn.
Oh yeah, the atmospheric hexagon. Yeah, that's a neat artifact.
And it's not the only one either, is it?
No, there's other things like that. Now, the hexagon is it's sort of like a strange atmospheric resonance that's set up based on Saturn's rotation rate and the cloud bands and so forth. So it's not that out of the question. It's certainly not artificial. It's something that can occur naturally. And the fact is, we know about hexagons. Why? Well, because they occur naturally. Okay, it's shaped that occurred naturally. We've seen it before. It's in snowflakes. It's in crystalline structures elsewhere. That are visible and seen. We see them in mud cracks. Okay, we see them everywhere. So it's sort of a natural shape. So it's kind of cool that when it shows up though on a gigantic Jovian planet though. Right. It was
and it's
surprising
at the pole too, right?
It is. It's at the pole, which is where the you would expect it because that's sort of a confluence area. That's an area where everything comes together. Look at this shot! Wow.
It's gonna get better. Hold on.
Yeah, I will.
About 20 seconds or so.
See, I can see. Yeah, I see. You're affecting the.
That's actually Paul doing that. I'm.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd wait for him to do whatever he wants to do in his, and then I take it. After that.
Wow.
And then now he just put it in the negative. Not as impressive. But yeah, I mean, the contrast thing. It's believe it or not, when I make it darker like this, you actually see a lot more detail. Because I try to take the whites down, because if not, the whites will overpower.
Sure.
With the reflections and whatnot, so you actually get a better view of it. But as you see when we zoom out, I'll bring the alpha up and whatnot. But yeah, it's just wow.
Yeah. Now see, the negative view though, you have to understand, the negative view in astronomy is actually very important, and the reason has to do with how we measure spots. For instance, when you're looking at a space photo, it's black sky with bright white stars. But because you're taking the image digitally, that image is bloated depending on how much light from that star hit the sensor. And you get other things too, like blooming effects and stuff like that, which are effects of the sensors and stuff like that. But if you think of the sensor on a camera as a little bucket, if it fills up, it'll spill into the adjoining ones. Well, that's why an image gets bloated. When you put too much light comes in, it fills the buckets over and over, and then the next ones and the ones next to it fill, and the next ones and the next one. So big stars end up getting bloated images, and sometimes, in the early days, sometimes that overblown color, that overblown starburst, that overblown starlight, in fact, would streak right down the sensor and cascade down and make a straight line down, and that was called a bloom, an image bloom. And nowadays we don't really suffer from that anymore. And so that said, the sensors are actually much more sensitive, and you can actually acquire data now in HDRI. So you can actually get HDR photos. That is the high, it's high definition, but it's also data. Imagine when you take a photo of the moon. You take a photo at, say, a 250th at f16, let's just say. Okay, now that means those are the settings to get the right light, and it's the right aperture. Okay, the aperture stops down the light to make let only in the right amount of light to expose a perfect photo of the moon, like we see here on the screen. Then, if you were to take that and say go up 3 exposures, so now you go from, say, a 250th to a 400th to a 800th, and you go up to those next 2 stops, but then go the other way too, from 250th to 100th to 80th to 60th. All right, and you go back that way. Now you've got this whole range of data that you're capturing from 60th all the way to, say, 800th or whatever.
Right.
Now, imagine that all in one photo. You might think, well, that'd be a jumble of mess. Actually, nowadays we can take that data and we can say take an image where you see a dark side of the moon here, and we could actually bring up the data in that dark area that is currently missing and make it look reasonably good. At the same time, we can actually affect and move the bright data we see and keep it from being overblown and blown out. So we can, and that's called, these are HDR images that have this massive range of quote-unquote exposures, yet it's all done with the one setting on some of the better cameras. I can take HDR images and just bing and just do HDR images now, like nothing, and so could Paul, I believe. But
Bing bong bing.
yeah, he's bouncing back and forth. Bing bong.
Isn't Trump known for that, for making that noise? That ping pong, ping pong, pong. He's done that a lot in a lot of his speeches.
Is he?
Yeah, you always hear him ping pong, pong, pong.
I wouldn't know. I don't know. That's a little worrisome. But hey, maybe he's making fun of people. I don't know.
I'm not even going to speculate.
All right. Well, anyway, when you watch, when you look at this stuff, it's like, you think, when you think about the camera sensors alone, okay, the guy that's been leading our UPhotog 2 team in the camera realm, a guy named Chuck. Okay, he's a brilliant man. He actually created the lunar, the Clementine lunar orbiter camera for the Clementine probe, and he had a team, and he was working with this team at Lawrence Livermore Labs, and he actually created that camera. And the camera had some prerequisites. It had to be the size that was appropriate, acquiring a huge amount of data in high resolution, highest at the time, and have the ability to do it fast. So they worked it out, and when they finally were able to produce the actual camera chip and the camera that would produce the images for the Clementine lunar orbiter, camera itself, the unit that actually did the data acquisition, was the size of a sugar cube. And that was an incredible feat of technology. It would actually acquire images by scanning the surface of the moon, line by line, basically, because it was moving fast over the surface, close to the surface. The full range of its view, line by line, fast as it's crossing in front of the moon. And so it was a very fast camera, best in the world for its time. And he's the guy in running or that's part of our team in doing the camera design for the UFOTOG 2 system.
What kind of camera were you going to put on that thing?
We're going to run something that was going to be like, think of it as we're going to have 7, in fact, not GoPros, but as an analogy, 7 GoPros on steroids, essentially. In other words, they would be 4 cameras, the ability to see twice HD resolution, okay, and they would be very fast, and they would have the ability to go to high sensitivity, like I do with the Sky Tour live stream, and they would actually be able to do video in 4K or photographs, and there'd be 7 of them. So that each one would only be sitting and looking at one particular area of the sky. And together, all 7 cameras could make up the entire sky dome that the camera can see from its position. That is, the unit could see from its position. Well, that process is something that is of course valuable. We don't want any moving parts, So
what is the status of the UFOTOG 2?
Well, my observatory was built not just to do the Sky Tour live stream. I actually have a mount on there that I 3D printed to put other instrumentation on it. And I print different size mounts and different proper mounts to test other equipment. So, like for instance, magnetometer, I have a test mount for that. Okay, EMF detector, I have a test mount for that. Things like that. And when these units get tested and debugged and everything is set, all this debugging happens in a closed, controlled environment inside the observatory. And so once we have that in place, then we know that, okay, this unit can now be moved to finished state and be used for a platter.
Okay, so you don't really have any, like say, like ballpark time frame or anything like that?
Oh, I thought it was going to be done 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And that was me getting whacked in the face with reality. Yeah. And when I realized, okay, you know what? I used to develop software. I should have known this. Okay, it takes a long time to do this, and I really feel, I feel bad about it because I really was hoping, I was feeling real bad about it because I really wanted to do that, sooner. But
well, what they say, there's 2 things in life that we can't avoid, and we're always at the mercy of. Number 1 is Mother Nature, and number 2 is time.
Yeah.
There's 2 things we can't avoid and we can't control yet. Or some people are to be believed we're already controlling weather. So. I have to tell Amanda. Amanda, I certainly don't want to steal your thunder, and I agree with you that Sky Dome is a great name for the observatory. And I had already thought of it like a year ago when I wanted to do this. I wanted to call it the Sky Dome. Welcome to the Sky Dome.
The problem was that the Sky Dome name, that's out there already, and from a business point of view, I couldn't do it, not without actually, doing something about it, because like
copyright.
Yeah, I mean, Sky Dome is the name of a sports complex.
Yeah, but I don't even think it exists anymore, does it?
It's in Toronto.
Yeah, didn't they tear it down?
Maybe, but it's the Sky Dome is known as a sports complex.
Oh.
Right, and then Sky Dome is something that schools name their planetariums. It's a common name. So there's another name. The Sky Dome is actually the dome of the sky is seen from your location. If you think of it as a hemisphere, the flat earthers do. Sorry, I had Tourette's.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. So, I mean, So I love the name. I really, really wanted to use it. I really wanted to do it. I kept looking for different ways around that.
You should have just called it Skynet.
Skynet, yeah, right.
I mean, it's a fictional,
Yeah.
so it's up for copyright. You know what I mean? You could have been able to get away with it.
Hey, listen. Google is the next Skynet. Okay.
I will almost guarantee that 100%. And you know what's scary? There was a movie back. It actually just came out with the second one, or coming out with the second one. It was a Matthew Vaughn film. Why is the name escaping me? It was shoot. It was about the guys over in London. They were the guys behind the scenes. You know what I mean? That kept the peace. Shoot, what the heck was the name of that movie? Somebody help me out here.
Logan's Run?
No, it was shoot. It had why can I not think of this movie? It's like one of my favorite ones. No, like I'm totally drawing a blank. That's what I get for being up since 5 o'clock this morning.
Well, do you remember the subject matter?
Yeah, they were like it was all about teaching this guy to become one of them, like this young kid. That his dad was one of these people, and I want to say gentleman, something gentleman, but it's not that.
A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
No. But all right, somebody's gonna help me out in this chat because it was a really good movie, and they had like their secret base inside like a suit shop, like an old suit shop in the middle of London. Come on, people. Kingsman, there you go. Thank you to Daryl. The Kingsman. You ever see The Kingsman?
Really? Oh, is it like sci-fi thing?
I wouldn't necessarily say it has sci-fi to it, but it's a real. If you want a really fun film, action-packed stuff, definitely watch it.
When did this come out?
This was probably a couple years ago, and now they just came out with The Kingsman 2. That's either out now or it's coming out.
So in 2014, Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Yeah, Kingsman: The Secret Service. That's it.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Really good movie. It was done by Matthew Vaughn, who also did Kick-Ass, if anybody saw that movie.
Well, Kick-Ass was funny.
Yeah, so it's that same kind of style. It's classic Matthew Vaughn film. You know what I mean?
Oh, very cool.
But anyway, in that movie...
Yeah, Mark Hamill's in the movie, Colin Firth's in the movie, Michael Caine's in the movie, Samuel L. Jackson. Wow, that's a pretty good movie.
So, well, anyway, in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson, I'm just going to give you so I don't ruin it for you, but he basically owns a company like Google. And what he does is he offers free cell phones to these people because these cell phones have a chip in them, like free internet access. So everybody takes them here, he has a diabolical plan or whatever. But basically, that's what it was. And the way he made this thing work, and it was kind of like the same thing in Ex Machina, where it was, these search companies were actually...
So a good movie.
Yeah, which are what's behind, these AIs actually being able to know so much stuff and actually, put all that information to use. It's just you have to see the movie to understand what I'm talking about. But definitely, if you get a chance to see The Kingsman, definitely do it. Well, I guarantee you, the way you are, you will fall in love with it.
Well, consider this. I've added it to my list as we speak.
There you go.
Consider this. As we improve and provide better programming for our AI, artificial intelligence, that we, put into all of the infrastructure that we need to live. We are approaching what's called a technological singularity. And a singularity is the condition that occurs when we can no longer do any better than the machines themselves doing the job for us. And then we have to rely on the machines doing the work for us. Right. And at that point, we are no longer in the loop. And should the machines ever get to the point where they're sentient, and we joke about Android life being life, or rather, and androids being sentient, okay? But really, all sentient means is beings or okay, machines that can think for themselves and make a decision that is beneficial to them. And if a machine can do that, then it's only a matter of time before the machine takes pride in that decision. Now, I know that some people will say, well, there's a huge gulf between making a decision and taking pride in a decision.
Right.
Yeah, there is. Okay, except what makes us take pride in our decisions? We're machines. We're biological machines. And what if we build androids in the same way? What if we build an android system, 100 years from now, as a biological machine? And could they not, through some mechanism we don't yet understand, could we not end up being in the same position? And now feeling that machines can make these decisions for us, and then the machines made the decisions and say, hey, we're better at making these decisions than you, stay away?
Yeah, it's almost like when will a machine decide that humans are a liability?
Well, yeah, that's like Skynet in the Terminator movies, right? And, sooner or later, I have a feeling we're going to have to cross that bridge. I really do.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. It kind of relates to a couple years back. I wrote a paper, and it was kind of controversial because, but by the end, I think everybody knew what I was talking about, and just when I say this, don't freak out or anything, anybody in the chat or anything. But the paper was
Your pen name was Claudia Albert?
No, but the paper was basically about how we have no other choice on our current trend of how we're going, no matter how we branch off or anything like that, that we pretty much have to become a communist planet because of technology. Because once you start building robots that can do the jobs that humans are doing now, that means less jobs, that means less income for people. What are all these millions of people going to do when there are robots that can do your job for you? It's going to it's going to go back to a bartering system. And once you have that bartering system, then everything, is going to have to run, including everything. This might not happen 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, 100,000 years from now. But there is no going around it. There is no other option. There's no thing where capitalistic, views win. It's going to come down to communism, and basically everybody taking care of everybody else. The haves and the haves not are going to have to be on the same playing field simply because of technology. You know?
Yep.
And that's what's scary about it, because a lot of people are thinking that's going to fall under a governmental umbrella, as a quote-unquote watchdog, for everybody. But do we even have a choice?
Yeah.
There's no way to turn back now. You can't do it. The way technology is developing so fast.
Yep.
We have no other option but to start integrating socialist and communist views into our lives, whether we agree with it or not. It doesn't matter at this point. You can be totally against socialism and communism, but come the future, you're not going to have a choice. And that's because of our own doing. Now, the one thing I can say that that I did put in the paper that we might be able to get away with it is actually going to be through space exploration. We're definitely going to have, obviously a lot of technology and AI and stuff when we become a spacefaring race, more than just our local planets. You know what I mean? But there's still going to be the need for humans. For that, and then of course when you talk about humans expanding, you're talking about colonies, that have to thrive in one way or another, and you're going to have different people bringing different things to the table, whether it be small companies that are miners or other ones that plan on going there for farming and growing food, so that's really the only way. And even then, once again, one thing we can't get rid of is time. Even then, maybe a million years from now, it's going to go the same way because of technology. But I'll actually ought to send you that paper. It's about 8 pages long, but
I'd read it.
Yeah,
I'd read it. I think that sounds like a really cool view. In my book, I actually included a section on nanotechnology, because that's another place we're going to go. And when I say nanotechnology, I define what when people think, well, they're very small. Nanites are little tiny machines. No, actually, I don't think they're little tiny machines. I think that the way we're going to implement nanotechnology, for instance, which can go target cancer cells and destroy them from a simple injection, and then they target it, and then you pee and poop them out, basically.
Right.
No, I think that we're talking about nanotechnology is actually going to be implemented by creating specialized molecules. And these molecules are going to be the little machines. Okay? The bonds holding the molecules, atoms together, are going to be the joints, the elbows and the other things to actually do this kind of work on the body or whatever. And most of the nanites, for instance, to get rid of a cancer cell, are going to sacrifice themselves to puncture it and destroy it. And they're going to do that by latching onto it. How would that be done in reality? It'll be enzymes that are in these molecules. The molecule will be this enzyme, and it will attach to a cancer cell specifically and cause the cancer cell to bust its cell walls open. Add 20,000 of these in, and you got this amazing, basically on the outside it looks like you've got some pus oozing out of a blister on your arm. What's that? That's really the nanites that busted up the melanoma on your skin, for instance. Is how I'm expecting that to be. So I think that nanites will be machines, but molecular machines. And that's what I think we're going to go with that. I don't think we're going to see little tiny robots in our bloodstream. I think we're going to see little specialized molecules in our bloodstream.
Do you think humanity at this point is almost like a bacteria? Almost like an invasive. Well, because the only thing I'm bringing up is we're going to have to seriously start thinking about within the next 100, 200 years about population control. The biggest fear that a lot of conspiracy theorists has, but I mean that's going to come to light. I mean, as of right now, there are just too many people.
Yeah, I actually read a paper the other day which really does kind of drive the point home that something's going on, and that is that scientists don't understand why, but that's the problem. Scientists don't understand why, but the oxygen levels on the Earth are falling. Now, that's not something for folks to now go panic and go, and start breathing heavier, but they're falling, and the reason they're falling is not quite clear. But they do think that it might have to do with some of the biological processes that are going on the planet that we don't really understand. There's a lot more to it, but it has to do with the heating and cooling of the planet as well. And some people will say, well, it's because of all the forests we're decimating. Well, certainly decimating forests does remove our oxygen. There's no doubt about it, but that's not all there is.
Well, what is the biggest oxygen producer on this planet?
Well, half of it's produced by plankton in the ocean,
and that would be the first place I would start looking. Yeah,
and the plankton are not, they're actually, I think I wrote an article. I'm trying to see where. I'm trying to find the article I wrote because.
Well, what's the population of Earth right now? It's like what?
8
billion, is it? And you have a lot of scientists saying that their peak is a lot of them are forecasting 12. And they said once we get to 12 billion, it's like our planet might not be able to sustain us.
That's one of the things that I was reading in that, and it's not and Ted Bronson, I understand your thing. You say, I don't buy the population thing. Well, the truth is, Ted, though, at a certain point, we are going to be breathing oxygen than we can produce. We are a spacecraft, after all. We're just a big biological spacecraft. And, the spacecraft we call a planet, we understand it as a construct of the universe. But don't forget that, I've said this before, and maybe it's something that, remember, all the folks that might think about this, but don't forget that the oxygen content we have on our planet is something that is not normal. That is to say, oxygen on a planet is not expected. Something has to be replenishing it because after only a few 100 million years, all the oxygen on our planet would have bound up into compounds going into the ocean water, bound up with minerals in the ocean water, and form, carbonate compounds on the ocean floor and so forth, and made many more compounds and bound up in the soils. Oxygen does not like to be in the atmosphere. It's actually a very active catalyst for all kinds of reactions. It's actually an oxidizer, right? Iron oxide, FeO2, and fire. Combustion is a big oxidizer. It's a big user of oxygen. And so every process on Earth that that we like to use tends to use oxygen. But the fact that we have oxygen in our atmosphere means that the Earth is in what's called, and I've mentioned this before, I swear it, I think, disequilibrium. Okay? Not in equilibrium, disequilibrium. All right? All one word, disequilibrium. And equilibrium is why we're here. Okay? It started with the cyanobacteria, 3.2 billion years ago, that started to, clear out the it started to clear out the carbon dioxide and the other heavier elements that the Earth has an atmosphere. We actually had an atmosphere once that was 90 times more dense. Actually, it was about the density of Venus's atmosphere that is now. But then, and this kind of goes back to the history of everything that I've always threatened to go through, but I won't go through all of it tonight. But because we have this beautiful moon up there, I think it's important to just mention it. If we look at, back when we had that heavy carbon dioxide atmosphere, we had the cyanobacteria, okay, the blue-green algae basically, and these little guys started to eat up a lot of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But they came after the oceans, and the oceans were formed from the rains, and the rains fell on the planet. Why did the rains occur? Well, we're in that Goldilocks zone that Venus never could reach. Venus was always too hot. So the water vapor that used to be in Venus's atmosphere was disassociated. That is, the ultraviolet rays from the sun are very energetic, and when they hit the H2O molecule, they would separate out the oxygen and split off the hydrogen. The hydrogen would get lost to space. The oxygen would end up going down and being absorbed into a compound in the soil, because again, oxygen is a great catalyst. It's an oxidizer. It'll disappear very quickly. So over time, Venus lost all of its water that way, and it never could rain on Venus. It never got cool enough for water vapor to last for a long time and to build up to the point where it could rain, because it was always too hot. So the water was actually disassociated in the upper atmosphere of Venus and lost to space and again into the soils. So on the Earth, the opposite happened. Okay, when it got heavy atmosphere, we got a heavy atmosphere of carbon dioxide and water vapor from volcanic activity. Well, then it started to rain, and it rained for millions of years. And these are all chapters, and part of my chapters I cover in the Populated Universe book. Well, when you talk about rain, okay, it was an intense rain. It was a rain that was so heavy a rain. It literally, the water drops would hit you like tiny little rocks. There was so, very, very big water droplets. They would actually, and there is a certain size that a water drop can be. There is some physics around that. But the water drops would fall and just constantly, it would just push you down to the ground because it was so much rain. And then that water washing over the rocks dislodged sodium ions and chlorine ions. And the sodium atom and the chlorine ion atoms actually love to bond together, because one gives up an electron easily and one needs one. So you get this little ionic bond between them, which is easily dissolved, and that's why we have salt. That's NaCl. That's the salt that we have in the oceans.
On that subject, on current trends, on this current track that we as humans on Earth are heading towards, if everything stay current and we keep doing things the way we're doing, how long do you think before desalination becomes a absolute priority?
Well, that's a good question, because that means we have to actually start running out of fresh water. but fresh water is in the form of rain. So I would suspect that we'll probably work out very efficient rain collection mechanisms before we start desalinating on a large scale. In some of the rainforests and some other areas in the world, it rains a lot, and there will just, I would guess, there would be a major collection effort to collect that water and use it, along with the reservoirs that may remain, of course, as you realize. Now, this, though, that's something that everybody can do. Every single household may eventually have some type of rain collection gear and freshwater collectors. That might just become as average every day as a refrigerator and a stove.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna go add a unit to the freshwater collector on the roof. Oh, okay, I'll finish making dinner.
I think one day they're gonna, they're gonna become just as standard as, say, as solar panels are gonna be. I mean, I don't know about up in your area, but here in Pennsylvania, the solar power industry is booming. I mean, you have solar panels going up on roofs everywhere. Like, people are taking out second mortgages to cover their roofs with the solar panels, and it's actually quite amazing to see.
Yeah, same here. The problem I have with solar, and I haven't done it yet, and I'll tell you why. Once it becomes a political football for the states, and I don't want to go into politics, okay, but once it becomes a political football for the states, then the benefit to the consumer drops, and the profit to the big company offering the solar panels goes up, and then it becomes a battle of the state power utility with the company and then with the consumer. My friend Chuck lives in the desert out west of Phoenix, about 40-50 miles outside of Phoenix. He has horizon to horizon Milky Way. When I go there, I go outside more than I'm inside because it's just beautiful out there. And he has two big 4x8 foot panels that follow the sun on his Arizona property. Now, he was a radiation scientist, obviously, with Lawrence Livermore, so the man is smart. And every day, these panels track with the sun. At the end of the day, he throws away power. And he's off the grid. He doesn't ever get power from anyone. He has a well. And he very smartly put his house on a geothermal hotspot, so his water comes out of the ground at 98 degrees.
You know, it's funny, though. A lot of these electric companies, especially the ones here in Pennsylvania, they found the biggest loophole for these people going to solar. They're like, okay, we're going to lose you as an electric customer. Now you have to pay us. You have to buy. I think they got some law passed where you have to stay connected to the grid, but you can feed the grid, and they would minus it off of your electric usage. Shit. And then, of course, they would, you still have to pay them every month, but every 6 months they'll send you money for what you put into the grid. If it's over what you use and stuff. They are trying to monopolize it any way they can, but...
Yeah, well, they're running scared because they know that eventually people are going to be independent power producers of their own. And, let me tell you, when that happens, there'll be a revolution, and a lot of people will lose their jobs, a lot of businesses will go out of business, and then it'll stabilize, and everybody will just say, okay, well, we all have our own power generation facilities, awesome. Yep. And then we'll move forward with that technology. Everyone in the human race, everybody wants to own something and be in control of something, and usually that amounts to being in control of somebody else. And now it's energy, power and energy and water are very big things, especially in drought-riddled areas. So, once those problems are solvable by almost anyone, then we're not going to have this anymore. I'll give you an example. Someday, someone is going to come up with the replicator like we see on Star Trek. I know it sounds like a joke, but think about it. All those is a molecular assembler, aren't they? Basically an atomic assembler and then a molecular assembler. So if you know what the molecules in a brownie are, and you know what the atoms are that make it up, well, if you just had a raw supply of those atoms, couldn't you at some point design a machine to assemble those atoms in the same exact matrix that a brownie is made up of, and you actually make a brownie? I mean, I don't see why that's not possible. I think it's just out of our reach, but this is a way. There'll be this is a way that we'll all end up with the ability to have enough food and water. Water is simple. We'll probably start manufacturing water quicker than anything else. But we have to extract the hydrogen from somewhere. Where would it come from? Well, it could come, from the ground. It can come from the moon. It can come from seawater, of course, but you can just desalinate. But desalination might be a longer process. We don't know. A molecular assembler could probably turn out several gallons an hour or more, perhaps a minute. Yeah. So I think that's something that we're going to see. We're going to see replicators. That's going to be the right thing.
Hopefully.
I'll
tell you what. Let me get back to because we did have a couple moon questions. Let me jump back onto that before we get off tangent.
Well, you keep sidetracking me.
I know. This was from earlier from Ted. Basically, what causes the actual high and almost sharp-looking triangle peaks? I know we can talk about complex craters and whatnot that have pretty high peaks, but what is it that makes it some that almost make them look like arrowheads and almost make it look like sharp to the point instead of, say, a more flattened area?
You mean within the craters?
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the problem. We're far away from the moon, so we don't actually get to see close. We can't actually see. Even people say, "Well, we're getting close with Paul's telescope." There's so much closer you can get, and so much more detail in those shadows that you're not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, anything that has an elevation to it is going to have some type of a projection onto the ground. I don't see why that's an issue so much, but any peak, any hill from a significant enough distance, its shadow is going to look like a sharp-edged peak.
Mm-hmm.
Even the round ones are going to end up looking a little bit sharper from a distance. If not, if they're not really, if they're low rounded, then they might look flat. Same thing with a taller peak. It's going to end up looking like a sharp peak. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
Yeah, he was just basically he was talking about Eratosthenes and how that peak kind of it just looks very triangular.
That's just the way. I mean, I can just say it's just the way the light's falling off the central peak.
Mm-hmm. And
but that's about it, really.
A lot of people had this question about the eclipse. We have a lot of people that have trouble believing that the moon just happens to be the right size to cover the sun.
It's not the right size. It's actually not the right size. I mean, because when it goes into totality, I mean, here's what's coincidental. The moon is the sun is 400 times farther away than the moon, and the size of the moon, okay, is a perfect multiple of the size of the sun. So that at the distance that the moon is, we get that totality. But it's actually a little bit bigger than the perfect size of the sun. If it wasn't, then totality would last a split second. But it doesn't, does it? When you're in the totality zone, totality can last like 7 minutes. That's because once the moon covers the whole sun, it has some distance to go before it starts uncovering the sun again. It's not perfect. It's not the perfect size. Additionally, we also have a different type of eclipse. We have an annular eclipse where the sun and the moon actually is in such an orbit, such a way in its orbit that is actually smaller than the sun, and so the sun is just a ring around the moon. So it's not perfect, and I've never viewed it as perfect.
And please explain this, because I've actually seen YouTube channels bring this up, and it kind of made me do a face palm. But I'll bring it up for anybody that doesn't quite understand it here. I actually saw a video of a guy.
You're gonna hurt me, aren't you?
Yeah,
it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The stupidity is high with this one, but they're saying what they're like. Well, this eclipse is NASA CGI. That's the big term these days. NASA CGI, right? I'm like, yeah, they did it across the entire United States. It's CGI. But they're like, why? Oh, I should be able to see the moon. And he said, well, we didn't see the moon until it actually started coming over the sun. Okay.
Oh, I saw that. They said they thought they should see a dark sphere in the sky.
Right. So
Yeah,
you want to
no,
explain this?
Yeah,
in layman's
that's
terms?
actually, you know what? That's actually not a terribly ridiculous thing for someone to say if they don't understand, and that I understand, and so I'm happy to explain that.
Well, the people saying it were supposedly researchers.
I know, and I'm not talking to those guys.
I'll say
Okay,
it was a Nibiru channel.
Yeah,
just and they had so many people in the comments going, "Oh my God, you're right! I never realized that." And I'm just like sitting there going, "Oh no."
It was actually a flat Earth channel, if I recall, right?
It might have been on either or. I know the one that I saw was on a Nibby channel. So,
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and explain it for people.
So, the truth is, okay, when it's a new moon, all right, we know that the far side of the moon, as seen from Earth, is lit by the sun. It's on the side of the Earth that's got the sun in it. Now, here's a question for you that will point this out. When you look at the moon in the sky during the day, let's say half the moon is lit. We call that first quarter, right? Do you see the other half of the moon there? Why don't we see the dark part of the moon there?
Mhm.
We don't. And why is that? We don't because of the fact that the sky is doing this process we talked about an hour ago, Rayleigh scattering. It's actually scattering the light primarily in the blue end of the spectrum, and it's scattering that light in such a way that it ends up basically coming to us from all directions. Now that light has a value. It has a positive amplitude. It has a value that's non-zero, meaning there's light coming to our eyes. The light on the unlit side of the moon is a value of, like, say 5 or 10, versus the light coming from the sun, which is, say, a value of 200 or 252. Okay, what do you think is going to dominate? The light that we see scattered within our atmosphere. The dark side of the moon can't show in the bright blue light of day. It's that simple.
Once again, it's coming down to the blue light again, people. Pay attention.
Well, that just happens to be the scattering color, but yes. Yeah. But true. All right, and that's exactly what it is. And so when they say they expected to see a dark circle, that's because they were failed by science class. Okay? Their science class didn't drive home the point that the blue light that we see in the sky is actually a redirected light that's coming from the sun. So the sun's very bright, and even though we're seeing just some of the blue, a blue sky can be very bright. When you look up at a blue sky, when you just get up in the morning, you go outside and look up, you squint, don't you? Oh, that's so bright. Oh, it's a bright day. And that's not if you don't even look at the sun. The blue sky can be bright. And that's because of the scattering that we're seeing coming from the spectrum of the sun being partially scattered to our eyes. And those, you will never be able to see shadows through that, especially shadows 240,000 miles away at the distance of the moon.
There you go. And
hopefully that's sensible.
I do want to remind everybody that is watching on YouTube and everybody in the chat to be sure to put your YouTube player on 1080p. Sometimes YouTube does not do that, or they'll, depending on the traffic in your area, they'll put you on 480 or 720. It is in 1080. And don't forget to say hi in the chat if you're around. I might as well do a chat shout out here in a couple minutes just for everybody that's participating in there. And make sure that you click the live button, because sometimes, especially if you've been watching for a while, like say 45 minutes to an hour, just the way the YouTube system is, it'll take you off of live just so you're not buffering or anything like that. So
yeah, like it did to me.
All you got to do is click the live button. That is, I believe, let me check real quick. Yeah, it's right next to the volume button. You'll see just a little red dot, and if that red dot's not lit, you're not live with us. You can just click where it says live, and it'll bring you to the most recent live that it has stored with the feed coming from us. So, so 1080p and live. With us now is Marc D'Antonio, once again, that we said we were just going to
Still here.
come on an hour and 15 minutes later. If anybody has questions for Marc, he'll take a stab at them. And we did have a couple come through. I know Amanda was writing them then. I'm not sure if she's still around. I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. I've been trying to get the best imaging here. And it still looks really good. I mean, you're starting to get some more atmospherics now than we had earlier, but still amazing. Still amazing looking.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Let's see. I don't see any questions actually offhand. Welcome. Actually, let me do the. Let's see who's in chat here. Oh, I better brighten the moon up first, shouldn't I? So we're not sitting here staring at dark. All right.
So that kind of looks. It's nice to see that contrast.
Yeah. I mean, well, once again, I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you, so from what you're seeing. So I had it dark when he went over towards the Terminator a little bit more. Do I even bother with the participants list? Did that even work last night? We'll try.
It did work because you went through them, right?
Well, we went through them, but it didn't give us half of the people that were actually in the chat. All right, so let's run it down. We have
Aline?
Aline? Is that what it is? Aline and Angel and Craig.
And
Daryl and David White, David C, David Kim. D is in the house. Number one moderator right there. She has the highest ban count by far.
She just doesn't like people.
She does. She is our Judge Judy.
That's right.
P&K.
That's right.
Yeah, her and Rock were head to head there for a while, but she just took off with it. And of course Amanda and Drew and Dunster and Dylan and Ed and Feed Me and Fortis and Goo and Harvey, Ignacio, Ken, Kayer. Am I saying that right? Kayer?
I don't know. It's like Kier.
And Kurt.
Kayer, yeah,
and,
maybe.
Nancy W, welcome back. And OK Dude. And Patricia and Righteous Toad. Is that what that is? And Rockstar, of course. Sandra, Steve, Steven, T. Bowen, Take Off Flock.
Take Off Loke.
Take Off Loke. And of course, our good friend Ted Bronson, TJL, Unfunded Opportunities. Not sure what that is. Victor Rosales, Warmark, and Zen Pretzel. That's everybody I have in the participants list. If I missed you, we'll probably see you in the regular chat.
I like that name, Zen Pretzel.
Zen Pretzel. So, yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Wow, we're almost up towards 650 people. So, yeah, as I said, me and Marc are just kind of shooting the breeze tonight. We're letting people answer questions. Shoot, that'd be
Wait,
nice.
what do you mean 650 people? Where'd you see that?
Yeah, we're at 633 right now watching.
I see 76 watching.
Well, that's because you're not very smart.
Okay.
I gotta take credit for something. I gotta be smarter at something, Marc. Give me something.
I'm okay. I'm.
How about you
refresh
the page,
a bone here,
Mr. Smart
Astronomer? I'm live.
How are you live with 77 people and I'm live with now 610?
I have no idea. I'm.
All right, so let's address the fake moon people, especially Mr. Raps T that just came in here. Marc, did you know the moon is fake?
Yes, I did. I've been carrying the lie and carrying the water for the liars for many years now.
I mean, come on, people. Let's smarten up a little bit. So, what was I? Oh, the shoot. I was gonna say that that one creator just came across it too. Yeah. So, any questions for Marc? Marc is an astronomer. Marc also. Do I? Man, you know, I always get out of breath when I got to do your credentials list. Joining us.
You don't have to do that.
I'm going to do it anyway. So how do you like it? Because we have 600 more people that were in here, not in here before. Joining us live now is Mr. Marc D'Antonio. With I feel like that Simpsons with such movies as.
Right.
He has been on NASA's Unexplained Files, and of course, What on Earth. FX Models is his business. Astronomy is his game. He does have a channel here on YouTube called Sky Tour Livestream with Marc D'Antonio. And if you want to learn how to do some astrophotography, or if you just want to tour the cosmos through a nice little telescope up in Connecticut, that is the channel for you, and you will definitely learn something, as most of you are doing here tonight as well. So there you go. And
Well, that's very cool.
once again, do you have anything to plug coming up? I know you said you had something coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I just finished actually filming the end of season 4 for What on Earth 2 days ago. I mean, it was 15 straight hours that we did here, and I had 15 different stories to do. And the first time they came out, I did 13. So season 4, I'll have 28 stories that I'm involved with for the season. But September 14 through 16, I'll be out in Wyoming at Devil's Tower, Devil's Tower National Monument, which of course was the subject matter for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And the conference out there is, of course, the Devil's Tower UFO Rendezvous. And on September 1st, Spielberg's Amblin Partners is re-releasing 2001 Close Encounters of the Third Kind remastered in 4K in theaters all around the country. And then they are going to on the 2 days after the conference, which is 14, 15, 16, and on the 19th, they're going to re-release it on Blu-ray all over the world. And the interesting thing is, on the 1st of September, in a couple days, they are actually going to do an outdoor viewing for the public at the base of Devil's Tower itself in Wyoming.
Nice.
So that's going to be really, really cool. I wish I could be there for that, but I'll be speaking on all 3 days. On the 14th, I'm training the Mutual UFO Network people in image and photo video analysis. Then on the 15th, I'm going to do one of my talks. I have a couple of different talks on exoplanets, planets around other stars. And then on the 16th, I'm doing a talk on our UFO hunting system called UFOTOG 2, UFOTOG, Roman numeral 2, that I'm doing with Doug Trumbull, Doug is actually the guy that did the visual effects for Close Encounters of the Third Kind and many other phenomenal movies, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Blade Runner, etc. So this is an interesting. It's going to be a great month. It's going to be a neat month to be here. Hopefully, some of you can make it out to Devil's Tower. Some of you may actually be around that area. So it's the Devil's Tower UFO Rendezvous being put on by Lori Tucker and Bob Olson, who are first-timers in the conference game. And to their credit, they are doing it right. They're doing all the right things, and they're really going to be putting out quite a spread for everybody. So it's going to be wonderful. And that's September 14th through 16th. Then October 7 and 8, I believe it is, I'm speaking at the Leominster, Massachusetts conference. It's a great conference. It just came out of nowhere. It started up a few years ago and went to new management and is now moving quickly. So it's great. And then a few other things are happening here and there, and I don't have confirmations on some of them, but we'll see what happens. We're getting a lot of stuff to do, but that's it. Nice.
And we're still waiting on an update from Dave Schock and the CubeSat for disclosure. From what I've heard, I believe he's doing okay. He just lost internet. So hopefully we'll be hearing from him soon to give us an update on that.
Yeah.
But besides that, if there are no other questions in the chat, I think I'll just.
Well, then I'll just go.
Yeah. Get out of here. But we can just switch it back to music. I mean, we still got a little bit of time yet, but since we did this for a while last night, I just figured having you on to answer some people's questions was a lot better than you typing it out in the chat.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, Steve says, you don't do flat Earth crap, but you're going to Devil's Tower. That also has nothing to do with alien life.
Yeah. He must think that we're like total science people.
Steve, I don't know if you really have been here the whole time. I guess you haven't been listening, but my specialty is planets around other stars, and the hunt for extraterrestrial life is very important to me. So it is very important, and alien research and so forth to me, that's just researching whether there's extraterrestrial life, and I can't tell you whether it's intelligent or not. I do know that most scientists will not decline to answer that. They'll say that, yeah, they believe that there is life out there. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson will tell you that there's life out there. He just doesn't think that, you know, that's possible that they're here, because that he doesn't cross that bridge. I only cross that bridge because of some personal experiences I've had that I couldn't explain, which I always say could always have been explained by some medical anomalies. I get that, but I've seen things, that just defy explanation through science, and I'm a science guy. So these things don't happen to me until they do, and then I'm left to put the pieces back together. So you can go and doubt it. You can be negative about it, but the fact is, there is alien life out there. We just haven't found it yet, and hopefully they haven't found us. But I kind of believe they have, and I'll give you a reason why. Our planet's been here for 4.5 billion years. Now, the universe has been here for 13.8. Now, I shouldn't have to do the math, but that means that the universe has existed, all right, for over 9 billion years without us even having been here. And we know that everywhere we look in the universe where we're seeing stars, or certain types of stars, everywhere we look, there's planets in formation, planets that are already in existence, and planets that have even survived the death of their stars. So this is a process that's been ongoing since probably 500 million years to 1 billion years since the start of the universe. Okay, once there were enough periodic elements that were discharged by stellar explosions and so forth to create planets. This all said, what that means to us is that we are kind of like neophytes in the universe. 9 billion years plus has already passed, and the civilization could have risen to absolute wondrous heights and collapsed and disappeared from the universe before we even ever showed up. Or there's a universal species out there that is now plying the universe and able to make it all over the universe, using theories that in our small 50 to 60,000 years of keeping our own written history, okay, we already see ways to travel faster than the speed limit of the universe, which is light speed. We already see those possibilities. We just don't have the ability to do it yet. So, to wonder about this is fine. To be skeptical about it is healthy. All right, but to discount it is to be sticking your head in the sand in a way. And I'm not going to tell you what to believe. That's your prerogative. That's the freedoms that we have as humans. Free will. But you just have to look at the facts. And I wouldn't have believed this stuff until it happened to me, and then it did. And I've wondered, and the other thing to wonder about is whether the universe is just one universe. Because I actually had an experience which just totally blew my mind, which made me feel that I was actually seeing bleed through from parallel universes. And then I found papers online that actually were written through at universities which talked about parallel universes, and they said it looks like they are there because these help explain the missing mass. And then they said several years later, with another paper from another team from the university, they said, well, it actually looks like that this last paper is correct, and here's how I think these parallel universes are laid out. And they gave a topology, kind of like a network. And it was just amazing to see this, because that means that not only are we possibly not alone in our universe, but we may, in the distant future, be saying, well, we're not alone in the universes. Yeah. Just change that to a plural.
I'll tell you what, let me run down some quick questions that we have. By the looks of them, they can be pretty quickly answered. From Callie, the question is space a liquid or a gas?
It's actually neither. It's a vacuum. Well, okay. I'll qualify it by saying this. Depends where you go. In certain areas of space, there's nothing there. In other words, there's no atoms per cubic centimeter. Okay. In other places you go, there's a lot more atoms per cubic centimeter. Like in a nebula you go to, there's a few atoms per cubic centimeter. All right. Just like in a cloud, it looks solid from the ground, but when you go up there, all of a sudden you're flying through it and not even really aware that you were flying through a cloud. Okay. In the same way, these nebulae out in space are the same way. They're very from a distance, which is why the Orion Nebula looks so dense when we look at it in the sky. Yet if you flew to it, you'd be flying through it and say, "Wait, I'm in the nebula? Oh, okay." I mean, so because the density of the atoms is actually fairly low. But go ahead.
So question number 2 is from Eddie Martinez, and he asked, "Where are the laser reflectors located?"
Well, I know that on Apollo 11 that some of those retro reflectors were put on the moon at their site, and I think another one of the Apollos put another pair down, another set down. The reason I know about these retro reflectors is because I actually saw them because my university where I got my degree built them for the lunar missions. So that was really kind of interesting, you know. I got to study them and see what these little retro reflectors were, the whole lunar ranging experiment, all that. And by the way, they shoot a green laser at the moon because the green laser can actually get the most penetration through the atmosphere and get out of the atmosphere.
All right.
Other types of laser light won't really get out as easily.
And then Patricia wants to know, would you take a trip to the moon if they started doing it?
If it was offered to me for free, heck yeah. I don't have the $220 million a head to go suborbital anyway, or $220,000 to do that. But yeah, I would love to go. Okay. I would definitely go around the moon.
And then leave it to Daryl to lose the entire chat with this question. Let's see. First part of the question. Let's see. Daryl says, I was looking at the path for the 2024 eclipse. It has something, missed that total part. Okay, it says, what causes the NS component to the eclipse path? Is it just projection on the Earth's spherical surface? So it says, what causes the NS component to the eclipse path? Is it just projection on Earth's spherical surface?
NS component? Is that what he said?
That's what it says.
Okay.
No idea.
Daryl, I don't know what NS means, and maybe I'm just tired tonight or something, but what do you mean NS?
I don't know.
All right, well, Daryl will answer.
It's a little more of a question, more in depth. I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, it's okay, but there might be a way to answer that in a way that everybody can follow it.
I still think I'm missing a part of that question, so.
Maybe you are.
Yeah,
but
it ends with, it has a very, and then it comes back in with a question, so.
Okay.
All right. Well, either way, we answer some questions. There's some,
north-south.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so
you could have just said north-south.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I couldn't see the questions.
So Daryl, I don't know about you young kids and your abbreviations. Isn't Daryl like an older gentleman?
Yes. I talked to him the other night. It was very good. He's very good guy.
Yeah, very smart guy.
So, I'm curious. Can you just read his question one more time? You think?
Holy moly!
I'm sorry. This time say north-south.
All right, let's see. Okay,
and see if he capitalized the N and the S.
He did. He did.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm just going to start it from the first part, because the first part doesn't make any sense, because I'm missing the middle section here. So,
he says, oh, never mind.
What causes the north-south component to the eclipse path? Is it just a projection on Earth's spherical surface? So basically, he wants to know what's causing that north-to-south path.
Yeah, I get it. Actually, what's actually causing that is the curvature, the fact that the Earth is spherical. All right? And as you come away from the equator, the shadow is going to tend to drag out toward the north.
Did you just say the Earth's spherical?
Shh, don't tell the FEs.
Government shill.
Yeah, right. So, and so he's right, yes. And then as you go south of the equator, for instance, then it drags out and will tend to go south. Yeah. And the shadow will, in fact, get wider the farther off the equator it is as well. In other words, the farther away from the moon's plane, of orbital plane, we go, the moon will get a little wider too, because it's being projected on more of a curve of the Earth. So, but yes, Daryl is correct. It is the curvature of the Earth that's actually causing it.
And there you have it.
Yeah. This is beautiful, man. This is beautiful scenery.
It's still gorgeous. I think that's what I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna end the Skype chat, and I think I'm gonna concentrate on trying to still get a little bit of good imaging until we can't use the big scope anymore, and we head off to the wide field. But once again, Mark, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
Once
I
again,
hope to see some of you at my Sky Tour live stream.
Yeah, I guess we'll just keep doing this, and when you're clear, I'll just jump over to your channel, and you know.
Yeah, well, I'm not streaming tonight, unfortunately, because it's cloudy here.
Yeah, we had a couple rain showers actually come in with a front out of nowhere.
So,
it was like beautiful today.
Yep, I had to top off the Jeep. I was driving around town in the Jeep, going to the town hall to get some papers signed. And as I came out, I'm driving along, and all of a sudden I'm getting spit on. I'm thinking, well, who the hell's spitting at me? It was Mother Nature.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. But once again, everybody, check out Mark's channel, Sky Tour live stream. I'm Mark D'Antonio. I'm pretty sure it'll be linked in the chat if you want to check it out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be streaming on the next clear night, correct? The next night that you get.
Yep. Most clear nights I will stream, yeah.
And once again, we are towards the moon cycle right now, so we will be streaming every night that we have clear skies in Miami. They won't all be as clear as tonight, because tonight is exceptional. Especially if you go back in the stream about an hour, it's been really awesome tonight. So we're going to stay at it for a little bit. But thanks again, Mark, and thanks again to Amanda for shooting me the questions behind the scenes to make sure we got them. And we'll talk to you again pretty soon.
Okay.
All right.
All right, folks. Good to see you and talk to you all. I will be back at some point in the far distant future when Google has taken over the planet.
Skynet.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. So enjoy the views. We'll be up for a little bit yet, and we'll see if we can't make it look good for you.
Awesome. It looks great, man.
Yep. See you later, guys.